The scalpel trembled in Zachary's hand, hovering over the pale curve of Alex's abdomen like a lover's hesitant touch turned fatal. "This isn't you, Zach," Alex gasped, blood bubbling from his lips. The sterile AR lights casting long shadows that swallowed the 9 years they'd stolen in secret. In that frozen heartbeat, Zachary realized the lie he'd built his life on was unraveling, thread by bloody thread, and the child waiting at home would be the noose to pull it all tight. Zachary Kane had always been the golden boy of Elmwood Heights, that sleepy suburb on the outskirts of Chicago where cornfields met cul-de-sacs and everyone knew your business before you did. Born to a fireman dad who grilled burgers with the same precision he fought flames, and a mom who baked apple pies that won blue ribbons at the county fair, Zach grew up believing love was as straightforward as a summer drive-in movie. Boy meets girl, fade to credits under the stars. But at 18, fresh out of high school and buzzing with the reckless energy of youth, he met Alex Rivera in the sticky heat of a backyard kegger, and everything shattered like cheap beer bottles under boot heels. Alex was a transplant from the Bronx, all sharp edges and street-smart swagger, with olive skin that glowed under the bonfire flames and eyes like polished obsidian that saw right through Zach's Midwestern politeness. He was there on a wrestling scholarship at the local community college, crashing parties to blow off steam from double shifts at the auto shop. Their first conversation was a spark, Zach handing over a red Solo cup, Alex's fingers brushing his in a graze that lingered too long, electric and unspoken. By midnight, they were stumbling into the shadows behind the garage, lips crashing in a kiss that tasted like cheap whiskey and forbidden fruit. Zach's world tilted on its axis that night, the straight-laced facade he'd worn like a Letterman jacket cracking open to reveal a hunger he'd never named. For 9 years, they built a hidden empire of stolen moments. Weekends in Alex's cramped apartment above the shop, where the air smelled of motor oil and microwave burritos, turned into sacred ground. They'd drive out to the dunes along Lake Michigan, sand gritty between their toes, bodies tangled under threadbare blankets, as the waves whispered secrets the world wasn't ready to hear. Alex taught Zach how to fix a carburetor with nothing but grit and a socket wrench. Zach showed Alex the constellations his dad had pointed out on childhood camping trips. They talked dreams, Alex wanting to open his own garage, Zach nursing a half-baked notion of becoming a surgeon, piecing together community college credits like puzzle pieces. "You're gonna cut lives back together, mi amor," Alex would murmur, tracing the veins on Zach's forearm with calloused fingertips. "And I'll be the one holding your hand through the mess." But secrets in America don't stay buried. They fester like untreated wounds. Zach's family was old-school Catholic, the kind where Sunday Mass was non-negotiable and "what will the neighbors think" was gospel. His dad, Tom, with his broad shoulders and beer gut, clapped Zach on the back after every football game, eyes shining with pride for the son who'd make him a grandfather someday. Mom, Linda, knitted scarves for the church bazaar and slipped articles about traditional values into casual chats. Coming out? It wasn't an option. It was a grenade with the pin half pulled. So they danced the dance. Holiday dinners where Alex was the buddy from work. Double dates with girls Zach barely remembered. The constant tightrope of affection masked as bromance. The first real crack came in year 5, during a brutal winter that buried Chicago under 3 feet of snow. Alex's mom, who'd immigrated from Puerto Rico and raised him solo after his dad bailed, got sick pancreatic cancer, stage 4, the kind that eats you from the inside out. Zach wanted to be there, holding Alex's hand in the dim hospital room as monitors beeped like accusatory metronomes. But Tom Kane had other plans. "Family first, son," he'd said, voice gruff over the phone, insisting Zach join the annual Kane clan ski trip to Wisconsin. "Your ma's been planning this for months. Can't let her down." Zach went, teeth gritted, snowboarding down black diamonds while his phone buzzed with Alex's texts. "She's asking for you. Says you're the only one who makes me smile anymore." That night, in a lodge cabin reeking of pine and regret, Zach broke down in the bathroom, sobbing into a towel so his brothers wouldn't hear. When he got back, Elena Rivera was gone, and Alex was a ghost of himself. Hollow-cheeked, chain-smoking on the fire escape, blaming Zach for choosing blood over heart. They patched it, of course. Apologies wrapped in desperate sex, promises etched in frostbitten skin. But the scar lingered, a reminder that their love was a house of cards in a windstorm. Year 7 brought the promotion, Zach finally landing a spot in med school at Rush University, the golden ticket out of Elmwood and into the city's pulsing heart. Alex drove him to the interview, blasting Springsteen from the truck's crackling speakers, whooping like a fool when Zach nailed it. "This is it, babe. We're golden." But med school was a meat grinder. Endless nights poring over Grey's Anatomy, rotations that left him smelling like antiseptic and despair. Alex's garage dream stalled. Recession hit, clients dried up, and suddenly he was working 60-hour weeks just to keep the lights on. Fights erupted over missed anniversaries, over Zach's exhaustion-fueled silences, over the unspoken fear that this life they'd clawed for was slipping through their fingers like Lake Michigan sand. By year 9, the pressure cooker blew. It was a Tuesday in June, the kind of humid Chicago scorcher that makes tempers fray like old denim. Zach was in his final rotation, elbow deep in a trauma bay, stitching up a kid who'd wiped out on his bike. His phone vibrated in his pocket. "Alex, for the third time that hour. Call me, now." When Zach finally dialed from the locker room, sweat-soaked scrubs clinging like guilt, Alex's voice was a blade. "I'm done, Zach. We're done." The words landed like a sucker punch. Alex had been offered a job in Seattle, big chain, full benefits, a fresh start. "You deserve the white picket fence, the wife, the 2.4 kids. Not this half-life we're scraping by on. I love you too much to watch you drown in the closet." Zach begged, voice cracking over the hum of fluorescent lights. "Don't do this. We can make it work." But Alex was already packing, the rustle of cardboard boxes a funeral dirge. Their last kiss was in the airport parking lot, salt and rain mingling on their cheeks. Alex's flight boarding before Zach could find the words to fight. That was the hook that snagged him, the void Alex left, a black hole sucking in every laugh, every touch, every dream. Zach threw himself into residency at Northwestern, burying the ache under layers of sutures and stethoscopes. Chicago's skyline became his confessional. Nights spent jogging along the lakefront, pounding pavement until his lungs burned like his heart. Friends set him up on blind dates with perky dental hygienists and ambitious paralegals, women who laughed at his jokes and smelled like vanilla candles. He played the part. Charming, attentive, the all-American guy with a future brighter than a Bears Super Bowl ring. Enter Emily Hargrove, at a hospital fundraiser in the Gold Coast. She was a pediatric nurse, all freckles and fire-red curls, with a laugh that cut through the jazz quartet like sunlight on fog. Daughter of a steel mill owner who'd clawed his way to lakefront condos, Emily was the epitome of Midwest grit wrapped in designer wrap dresses. They bonded over shared shifts, her in peds, him in emergency, and one rainy afternoon in the cafeteria, over lukewarm coffee and Jell-O, she confessed her own scars. A messy divorce at 25, a fear of ending up alone like her chain-smoking aunt in Gary. Zach saw in her a mirror of his own facade, strong on the outside, fraying within. "You're not fooling anyone, Kane?" she teased, poking his arm. "Those eyes of yours scream, haunted hero. Let me fix that." He proposed 6 months later, on a snowy Christmas Eve at her parents' estate, down on one knee by the roaring fireplace with a ring that cost half his signing bonus. The wedding was a spectacle. White tents in the backyard, string lights twinkling like stars, 300 guests toasting to forever. Tom Kane cried during the vows, Linda dabbing her eyes with a lace hanky, whispering, "She's perfect for you, honey." Alex's absence was a phantom limb, throbbing in the quiet moments. Zach's hand in Emily's feeling like a betrayal, the tux too tight around his chest. But he said, "I do," and meant it as much as he could, a vow to build something real from the ashes. The first years of marriage were a careful choreography. They bought a brownstone in Lincoln Park, the kind with creaky oak floors and a garden plot where Emily planted heirloom tomatoes. Zach climbed the ladder at the hospital, becoming the go-to trauma surgeon for pile-ups on the Dan Ryan and bar fights gone wrong. Emily thrived in her unit, advocating for foster kids with the ferocity of a mama bear. They hosted barbecues, joined a book club, even adopted a mutt named Gus who snored like a freight train. Sex was tender, routine, missionary under crisp sheets, her sighs a polite echo of what he'd once known as wildfire. He loved her in the steady way you love a favorite sweater. Comfortable, reliable, but never quite fitting right. Then came Lily. Emily's pregnancy was a surprise, 36 and counting ovulation kits like rosary beads, the positive test a confetti burst in their bathroom. Zach held her as she wept happy tears, his own smile masking the seismic shift inside. Fatherhood. The word conjured board games and scraped knees, not the man he'd buried under white coats and wedding bands. Lily arrived on a stormy October night, 7 pounds of pink perfection with Emily's curls and Zach's hazel eyes. Her cry slicing through the delivery room like a siren's call. Holding her for the first time, slick and squirming, Zach felt a crack in the dam. A fierce, protective love that had nothing to do with his secrets and everything to do with this tiny human who'd claimed him. But bliss is fragile in the rear view of regret. Lily's second birthday brought the first whispers of discord. Emily, exhausted from maternity leave and night feeds, suggested counseling. Just to keep us sharp, like oil changes. Sessions revealed the fault lines. Her loneliness in the marriage, his emotional distance, the way he'd zone out during dinners, staring at the skyline as if searching for a ghost. I feel like I'm loving a shadow, she confessed one night, wine glass trembling in her hand. Zach nodded, throat tight, the truth a boulder on his tongue. He couldn't say it. Not with Lily's crayon drawings taped to the fridge. Not with Tom's weekly calls boasting about the family man you've become. The bomb detonated on a crisp fall afternoon, 3 years into fatherhood. Zach was in the oar, closing up a gunshot victim. A kid from the south side, no older than Alex had been at that kegger, when his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Saw your profile on that alumni site. Seattle's treating me well. Coffee? A heart slamming against his ribs, he fumbled the scalpel, nicking his glove. Alex, alive, thriving, close enough to touch after a decade of radio silence. That night, he lied to Emily about a late consult. Meeting Alex at a dive bar in Wicker Park, the kind with neon signs flickering like faulty memories. Alex looked good, better than good. Lean muscle from CrossFit, salt and pepper at his temples. A tattoo of Lake Michigan waves curling up his forearm. You look like a dad, he said, sliding a whiskey across the scarred oak bar, his smile bittersweet. They talked for hours, the years folding like origami. Alex's garage now a chain of 3, a string of flings that never stuck, the hole Zach had left that no one filled. I thought about you every damn day, Alex admitted, voice low under the jukebox's twang. Zach's hand found his across the table, a spark reigniting the fuse. 1 drink became 3. The bar became Alex's hotel room at the Thompson. Bodies colliding in a frenzy of pent-up longing. Rough, reverent, a reclamation of what the world had stolen. It was a one-night relapse, or so Zach told himself, scrubbing in the shower until his skin pruned. Emily's sleepy love you, from the bedroom a knife twist. But the text started, miss your laugh. Remember the dunes? Harmless, at first, until Lily's preschool open house, when Zach's phone lit up with a photo. Alex shirtless on a Seattle beach, waves crashing behind him like an invitation. Emily saw it, her face draining of color. Who the hell is A? She demanded, voice a whip crack in the kitchen light. The confrontation was biblical. Zach confessed everything. The 9 years, the love that dwarfed their marriage, the guilt that had chained him to a life half-lived. Emily shattered, plates flying from cabinets in a storm of rage and grief. You used me, lied to me, to her, she screamed, Lily's cries echoing from the nursery. She packed a bag that night, fleeing to her sisters in Evanston, leaving Zach with a toddler's bewildered sobs and the wreckage of his vows. Weeks blurred into a custody limbo. Lawyers' calls, mediated tears, Emily's eyes red-rimmed at every hearing. She wanted out, clean break, but Lily was the anchor. I can't leave her with a ghost, Emily begged one rainy Tuesday in the lawyer's office, her voice cracking like thunder. She's yours, Zach. Biologically, legally, in every way that matters. But if you don't fight for her, for us, even as friends, I'll take her across the country where you can't touch this. It was a plea wrapped in ultimatum, her hand trembling over the table, freckles stark against pale skin. Zach saw the woman he'd vowed to honor, broken but unbowed, fighting for the family he'd half-built. The high tide of chaos crested that spring, when Alex flew in unannounced. He'd seen the Insta posts, Zach's forced smiles at Lily's Easter egg hunt, the hashtag screaming blessed family man. You're killing yourself for them? Alex argued in a coffee shop off Michigan Avenue, steam rising from their mugs like unspoken accusations. Come west. Start over. Lily can visit Summers. But Zach's heart split wider. Alex's fire versus Emily's steady flame. Lily's gummy grin the thread, holding the frayed edges. I can't abandon her, he said, voice raw. She's the one good thing I did right. The betrayal cut deepest from within. Emily, in a haze of therapy and wine-fueled fury, leaked snippets to mutual friends, whispers at PDA meetings, sidelong glances at hospital mixers. Zach's dad confronted him in the garage, toolbox clattering to the concrete. Is it true, son? All those years with that boy? Tom's face crumpled, not in disgust, but defeat. The dream of legacy sons shattered. Mom sent Bible verses via text, silent treatment stretching like taffy. Even Gus the dog seemed to judge, curling away from Zach's touch. Yet in the rubble glimmers of grace, Emily's anger thawed into something human. Late-night drop-offs where they'd share a cigarette on the stoop, trading Lily stories like fragile heirlooms. I loved you, you know, she admitted once, exhaling smoke toward the stars. The parts you let me see. Zach nodded, throat thick. I loved you too. Still do, in a way. Therapy became their bridge. Individual sessions bleeding into joint ones, unpacking the lies not as weapons but wounds. Lily, oblivious and resilient, became their North Star. Her first steps in the park, finger paints smeared across Zach's scrubs, bedtime stories where princes sometimes kissed knights instead of princesses. The turning point came on Lily's 4th birthday, a backyard bash with balloon animals and a cake towering like a sugar monolith. Alex had texted congratulations, a photo of Seattle cherry blossoms as olive branch. Emily, wind-tousled and sundress fluttering, caught Zach staring at his phone. Tell him to come, she said quietly, squeezing his arm. For closure, or whatever this is. He did, and Alex arrived, jeans and leather jacket, a wrapped dollhouse under his arm. The afternoon unfolded in awkward grace. Alex pushing Lily on the swing, her giggles a bomb. Emily pouring him a beer, their small talk laced with unspoken truces. As dusk fell, fireflies winking like conspirators, Alex pulled Zach aside by the garden shed. She's amazing. You're an incredible dad. No please, no ultimatums. Just pride, bittersweet and bone deep. They parted with a hug that lingered, Alex's whisper hot against Zach's ear. If you ever need me, I'm here. No strings. He flew out the next morning, leaving a void that didn't ache quite so sharply. Emily and Zach filed for divorce amicably, joint custody, no alimony wars, a co-parenting app buzzing with schedules and heart emojis. She started dating a radiologist, a quiet guy with a penchant for indie films. Zach threw himself into a support group for queer dads, finding brothers in the stories of late-blooming truths. One humid July evening, a year after the dust settled, Zach took Lily to the dunes, her first pilgrimage to the place that birthed his hidden heart. She chased waves in a polka-dot swimsuit, chubby legs pumping, while Zach sat on a blanket, sand warm between his toes. His phone stayed silent. No ghosts, just the lap of water and her laughter. Emily texted a photo from her date. Having fun. You too good? He replied with a video of Lily building a lopsided castle. Better than good. Love you both. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in strokes of tangerine and indigo, Zach felt the weight lift. Not gone, but lighter, like a scar faded to silver. He'd kept a secret for 9 years, built a marriage on half-truths, faced betrayal's bitter sting. But in the end, love wasn't the explosive kind that raised foundations. It was the quiet rebuild, brick by forgiving brick. Lily ran back, collapsing into his lap with sandy hugs. Daddy, look, I made a moat. He kissed her forehead, breathing in the salt and sunscreen of now. It's perfect, kiddo, just like you. And in that moment, under the vast American sky, Zachary Kane was finally, achingly free.